So as a result of a poll that I done yesterday regarding the Warden and Nothing Solar Grandmaster, where I pick out a couple of ideas and then you vote on which one you like the best. Yeah, as you can see, Sweet Business, Titan, Actium, War Rig, loadout won by 35%, Racking was 16, Tariba was 23, Legendary Trace, Retrace Path plus Leviathan's Breath combo and Prometheus Lens were dead last. Not to say that those loadouts aren't interesting. They are, but obviously Titan won. So I'm going to go with what this is the whole idea. It's the viewer picks. Because of how easy Grandmasters are this season, I've opted to do things a little different because I'm an opportunist. We've got opportunity to sort of use anything we want to a degree. So I'm going to let viewers pick. But I am also going to just run runs on my own as well as the season goes on. Whether it gets voted or not, I'll still do that. But for now, as I say, I'll just stick to the voting and just keep going that way. But anyways, as I said, we're using the Titan setup. So we're using Sunbreaker, Hammer of Sol, with the Actium War Rig chest plate. The reason being is because it gives you a constant drift feed. Well, not a drift feed, but a constant reload of Sweet Business. You keep getting ammo back, right? This works with machine guns and auto rifles, and obviously Sweet Business is classed as an auto rifle, but to be honest, it's more like a kinetic machine gun, if anything. That's what I kind of think it more as. See, now Sweet Business obviously got a buff along with the exotic primaries with the 40% damage bonus to adds, right, which is very noticeable in endgame. So you're going to say I'm still going to do a really good amount of damage to adds, right, just in general on mines and stuff. So it's really good that way. Not only that, because it's overload auto rifle, all the adds that you shoot, you disrupt and you lower their output damage against you. So you get a little bit more tanky indirectly as a result of using this. Not to mention you use the tier 10 resilience. You get the 40% damage bonus and you can stack other things. I didn't. I went for a high energy fire elemental well setup, hybrid setup. That's generally what I'm going with these days, as it's just generally the best to pair with solar, because radiant, the solar damage bonus, the solar buff that you can get, stacked with high energy fire. So it's even more. I mean, I've been using high energy fire not just since this season, but ever since it came out. I was using it when everyone was using Warmine cells. When they were strong, I was still using high energy fire then. So I've always used high energy fire over the years. It's just that it's even better now than it's ever been. What I'm doing here is I'm letting the enemies kill the Hydra. Notice I'm charging light. Now, because of how charging light works, I would lose my damage bonus when that target is killed. So high energy fire is for priority targets. It's not for ad clear, alright? It's for when you want to focus on a boss, a champ, or stuff like that. But there's tactics that you can use to stop you from losing high energy fire. Now, your ability kills aren't classed as high energy fire. High energy fire is a weapon damage bonus. Someone was asking me the other day how you know that it's procced. Your gun glows. Look at my guns, they're glowing. Right? Now, the reason why I wanted to keep it was so critical that I did is because it's going to save on ammo a bit, because I don't have Unstoppable. See, Warden and Nothing has all three champs. Barrier, Overload, and Unstoppable. So if you're not running like Leviathan's Breath, Lament in your heavy slot, then you're going to struggle to get all three mods up. There is Overload Solar Grenade, but do not use that. It's a broken mod, doesn't work. So I would just recommend that, as I say, generally stay away from that. But there's different ways you can deal with it. I would say that you don't focus on Unstoppable on this. If you're going to use like an Overload or Barrier weapon, then don't focus Unstoppable. Let your weapons, let your build deal with them. Like, look, I'm using the bait and switch. So how that works is you just get a shot, or you do damage with your primary, your special, or whatever. Both your weapons, and then you swap to the heavy, and you get that damage bonus. It's melting these Unstoppables. Even the fact that I haven't even stopped them. I haven't actually stopped them in the traditional way. And now I'm going to use a bit of Sweet Business to do as much damage as possible. Get this champ finishable. This is where this run's going to take longer. So just bear that in mind with me. Is that this run is longer. It's like 10-15 minutes longer than what it probably should be. Because I can't stop Unstoppable. So it's going to take a little longer. and there is a couple of unstoppables, alright, but we've went with the Sweet Business loadout, so I've got to optimize barrier unless I'm going Stasis Behemoth, which we can do that in the future, but right now I didn't fancy going Stasis Behemoth, to be honest. You know, because actually Duskfield can override the Overshield and stuff, but at that point you probably want to use double Duskfield, and in that case you're not using Actium War Rig, so therefore War Rig, the Sweet Business isn't as effective. It needs to be War Rig. I'm not going to use it if it's not War Rig. It's only good when you use it. Never use Sweet Business on like a Hunter. Waste of time. Warlock, waste of time. But on a Titan you can make it work. It's alright. It's good to use. To be honest, it's better using it when it's barrier auto. And I've already done this as a Grandmaster, using it as barrier auto. So if you want to see that, then ask me, I can give you a link. Alright, but I'm not going to link it really, because it's really irrelevant now, because that was a long time ago. I don't know if it might have been about 10 months ago. I can't even remember when it was, but as I said, we ran this GM when it was barrier auto with Sweet Business, and it really did do a good job. It's done a good job this time as well, just the only problem is that I guess that we can't do with Unstoppables as good as we liked. I guess that season I might have had a better way of doing with Unstoppables. I'm not sure. So this is where we're going to do with this Unstoppable, this next one. Notice I'm still charging light. I've kept that on purpose to make my life easier while dealing with this. Because you don't want to burn all your heavy. It's quite a bad idea to burn all your heavy. You need some heavy for the next room, and there's a chance that you might not get the bricks. Linear fusions for ammo is screwed up. My ammo finders is really just sort of messing it up. I shouldn't have used linear fusion ammo finder. It's strange because before this week I wasn't having a problem with it. Now I'm having a problem with it. I didn't run linear fusion scab. I don't believe I did, unless that was causing the problem. I should have had linear fusion holster on, unless that's the problem. But yeah, if you notice, I'm picking up 1, which is a huge that's so devastating to runs when you're low on heavy and you need that heavy, and you pick up and you get 1 brick, 1 shot from a brick. It's not on really. They need to look at it. We'll just get this charm finishable from up here. So notice what I'm doing. I've got tier 10 resilience. The barricade is tied to the barricade stat is tied to resilience. So if you have tier 10 resilience, you'll get infinite barricades, just about, which means I get more classy restoration, because obviously we're using classy restoration with revitalize and blast on the class piece. You saw the loadout at the start of the video. I showed you you know what I'm using. Ember of Torches for Radiant, Ember of Solace to double up on Radiant and Restoration, you know, and so on and so forth. Just anything to really help out this setup itself. The tier 10 resilience is a huge thing in GMs now. I actually ran this. This is my second attempt with Sweet Business. I ran this on a tier, I think it's a tier 8 resilience stat. I'd ran a different loadout or different armor. I had different armor on or something, and I got one shot by the snipers, the champs. I only had 1 solar resistance mod on with an arc, right? So I had solar void arc. So the moral of the story is run T10 resilience with double solar and you won't get 1 shot, or even T9 resilience. You should survive with double solar. You should be good. But if you only run 1 solar and your resilience is like tier 8, you might get 1 shot by the snipes. So this was literally my second attempt at it, and also I was just sort of seeing how it would work against, you know, the barriers, because the Sweet Business, as I say, it's good when it's barrier, but when it's overload, it's obviously really useful on overloads, but not that useful on barriers, because how this weapon works is it takes that little bit of time to charge up. All that time wasted, you could be DPSing a champ with something else. So it wasn't the best for dealing with barriers, but Revitalize and Blast will save us and help us with assistance on that, with the barriers. Because these 2 barriers are quite difficult, or at least the one on the right's difficult coming up. We'll just take out all these ads here. If you can get Charge of Light, that's great, before you kill the final ad, but I must have killed that ad there. I exploded the barrel and killed all the ads. So that's fine. Because what I'm wanting to do here is kill the Hydra before we spawn in the ads. See, in this room you need to understand how it works. The first spawn of ads is dictated by how far you push up in the room. If you push past these stairs, like say a yard after the stairs, you will then spawn in the Vex rotation of goblins and stuff. You don't want to do that. You'll actually spawn in the champs, or spawn in, yeah, it'll spawn in the champs as well, or the one on the right at least. I think the left one's already spawned in, if I'm not mistaken, but the right one definitely isn't. So it's a case of you're not going to get sniped from anything here. So you can literally, because of how barrier weapons work, because it's barrier pulse, you can shoot through the Hydra's shield. You can also shoot through general hobgoblins' immunity, right? When they do that, when they duck and they do that immunity thing, you can shoot through that, and you can shoot through these shields. Like, look, I'm just shooting Lenin. I'm using the last Perdition Void Pulse, which worked out all right. A Solar Pulse would have worked far better, like the Battler Pulse, the Halo one. That would have been really good in this. I probably should have went with that instead. But I guess there was I mean, there's only 2 Void Shields, so I really should have just went Solar Pulse. You'd have found that breaking the shields would have been a little bit easier as well, because you're benefiting from the acute burn. But that's fine. As I say, this pulse is still really good regardless. Last Perdition is one of the best pulse rifles in the game for like PvE, and some people might not pay attention to what the best pulse rifles is, but you have to, because it's barrier pulse. So the Bungie's forcing you to look at archetype of weapons and see what the best is in that. What's the winner? So, you know, if it was no holds bar, then you wouldn't use pulse rifles. Very rarely, only like the good ones like Outbreak Perfected and Bad Juju and No Time to Explain or stuff like that. Or even Graviton Lance, which Graviton Lance is alright. It's actually not too bad. So the goal here is to tag as many enemies as you can, because if the train kills the enemies, you will not get ammo. You have a less chance of getting the ammo because you haven't tagged that said enemy. The game will consider the train as killing the ad, and it'll consider definitely not getting any ammo. Whereas if you get the tag, at the very least tag the enemy, if the train then kills the enemy, you may get ammo. But what you want to do once all the spawns stop is focus the champs. Right, now I didn't reload. I should have reloaded my pulse, so we actually lost out there. But what I'm doing is isolating the champs from each other. So I'm going to take the left one first to stand in here, so the right side champ can't snipe me. It's impossible for the champ to snipe me from here, because 2 snipes would definitely kill us. If I got double snipe from each barrier left and right, that's a death. As I said, as long as you run the appropriate resilience, then you should be good. I was unfortunate there. I didn't get bait and switch to proc as good as I should have done. I sort of messed up with this charm, I'll be honest. What I found that was an issue, because I went with bait and switch Cataclysmic, which is by no means a god roll, but it's got bait and switch. The fact that it's really good, but it's not good with sweet business. Because when you're dealing with a barrier, the last weapon you're going to be shooting the barrier with is the pulse. So it's a case of a little slow, because you've got to go between your pulse to then quickly swap to sweet business to charge it up just that little bit. To take that little bit of time, then swap back to the linear. So I decided with these barriers, let's just take them down slowly. I'll save a bit of heavy anyways, because there's plenty of unstoppables to go at. There's plenty more opportunities to use heavy, and I'm halfway depleted anyway. So let's let Revitalize and Blast do a lot of the work anyway. The champ's literally dead. So this is a good place, you notice. I've isolated the Minotaurs, the Goblins. They can't shoot me. Only the barrier can see me, so I'm strafing in and out of this cover. The train is a nuisance and will get in your way of breaking shields. It's just something that'll happen. It's a case of trying to get your timing down with it. What I recommend the next protocol is, with any run that you're doing, any loadout, is take down one of the Void Minotaurs. Not both of them. If you want to take both, you can, but at least one. The reason why is because these these Void Minotaurs are actually very similar to Overload Minotaurs. if there's two of them, one of them comes round and creeps at you. If you stand up on these stairs, if there's only one of them, they won't push. That last Minotaur won't push. It's really interesting to see these nuances in the game. A lot of people don't even have a clue what I'm going on about, because you don't see this in everyday gameplay. Because if you're playing in a team, you're just taking everything anyways. But yeah, that's a variation in the AI. If there's more of them, one of them will push, one of them stays back. It's a tactic. If there's one of them left alive, like I said, the Void Minotaurs, won't push. That Void will just try to kill you from up here. Because if that, I mean, it's not a problem if that Minotaur did push me from round back. I would hear that audio cue. I wouldn't have a radar to rely on, but I would hear that audio cue and then break out my pulse. Take down the shield and then just probably use sweet business or whatever. So I'm just trying to clear out as many goblins as I can before the boss spawns in, just to, in hopes of getting some ammo to drop. There is a couple of bricks, so we're actually good. So now I'm waiting for the first spawn of this Vex boss. Now I know off by heart this boss always spawns middle first. So this super is doing really good damage for me. Because of solo acute burn, it's took half HP of this boss. That's really good. I didn't even have Roaring Flames up or nothing. That's half HP. So I was actually pleased on how well I've done. Now the rest of this is just dealing with the Vex. We'll actually take some of the goblins out though. Again, just getting more heavy if we possibly can. We'll roll the dice, see if we get it. I missed the thrown hammer there, unfortunately. What I would recommend for an actual serious run in this would be Heart of Inmost Light. It is the best Titan exotic for neutral gameplay in the game. It's my most used Titan exotic in the game, and it has been since Void 3.0. Actually, I was using it before then. I would have been using it a long time. Just because of how much ability regen you get, it really suits my playstyle. Lord Resplendor is good, and it's going to help less skilled players out, I think. It really depends what you're doing. It's going to help, as I say, less skilled players, but once you're comfortable on a Titan and you are a Titan main, I recommend you go Heart of Inmost Light. You have more control of your stuff. And it stacks with Roaring Flames, the empowered buff. With your grenade, your mini thrown hammer, everything. I know there's Symphoceps, Wormgod fists and all that stuff, but let's be truthful, you're not using that stuff in GMs as much. I'm not saying it's not possible, anything's possible in this game, but I'm just saying most of the player base aren't going around just using Symphoceps and Wormgod in GMs, because there's a chance of dying, there's a higher chance of death. In Masters, yes. In Dungeons, yes, we're using that stuff. But when it comes to the point where you want stuff to be done from a range, Heart of Inmost Light's better, in my opinion. I think it's better anyways. That's just my opinion on it. But that's a little advice for Titan mains, because I presume a lot of Titan mains are watching this. Notice I've maintained charge with light. Now my goal is not to clear any of the ads until we need to entice that Unstoppable in. We have done. I actually didn't see him there until last second. So we've enticed the Unstoppable, that's great. We'll use our Barricade, because these Unstoppable champs, they don't recognise, they must be blind to it, but they don't recognise what a Barricade is. So when they come up, see the mechanic obviously for the Unstoppable is to run up to you, then when they get to 2-3 meters away from you, they do their boop attack. They've got the boop attack and then they've got the solar damage thing. Solar damage is when they're from a range, but if you pop a Barricade as they're booping you, they'll try and boop you, but the tower and Barricade will protect you against it. You can really manipulate these champs so easily because of that. Titans are the best class for like manipulating champs like this, because the Barricade's just so good. Even though the fact that I'm not using Heart of Inmost Light or Lord Resplendor or whatever, I'm still being effective here. Like, just look how much I'm getting my Barricade. And it is proc and classy restoration, don't forget. So I'm trying to, again here, is use as much heavy with bait and switch as I can. I know I've got bait and switch there, but if I'd overcommitted to damage, I would have died there. So I knew it was coming before it happened, and that's what you'll find when you get more accustomed to when you're playing GMs, you'll sort of know that something's going to happen before it does because of your position and how hard you're getting hit in the meantime, right? So it's an experience thing, and the only thing you can really see is you need to just play more GMs. You know, play them until you're fed up with them. Just keep playing them, and then when you get too fed up, stick off them for a while, and then come back and start playing them again. But what the fun thing about Grandmasters is in this game is that you pay attention to details that you would never think of before. And we've all, like, we haven't all, but a lot of us, I mean, 9 times out of 10 players you speak to online, on internet, they all say that they were original D1 player for 2014. I think a lot of people do lie about it and say, oh, I was D1, I was there 2014 September, when some of them weren't. I do think some people, that's just like a trope. It's just a bit of a cliche thing that people say. I wasn't. I actually didn't start till like October 2014 because I didn't get a PS4 until then. So I wasn't there day one, but I was there after 2 months, right? So I wasn't an absolute like beta player exactly for D1, but for obviously D2 I was. But I did play obviously all the D1 since then. So I only missed the first 2 months of the game. But what I'm saying is all those D1 players say, I'm a D1 vet, I'm a D1 vet. When you start quizzing some of them about, okay, so do you know about this mechanic? They don't have a clue what you're talking about. You may as well talk to your chair or table. They don't have a clue what you're going about. So this is what I'm saying. There's a lot of us play this game, but still are missing so much knowledge about the game. But we've never really needed all the knowledge as much as now with GMs. Unless you were doing a very specific raid, challenge, speedrun, or solo or low man stuff, then you need that extra knowledge to get you through it. But the player base of that is very low these days. Low man raids, it really has dropped off. It's not what it was in the Leviathan days. I would say it's less now than what it has been. It's sort of, you know, it's dropped off, but Destiny's dropped off in general, challenge-wise. It's sort of come to a little bit of a low, because of Soul 3.0 making the game considerably easier, you know. So maybe it's just a case of, well, players are less enticed to do it. It's summer, playing other games, there's other stuff coming out. They'll play the seasonal content and be done with it. Even some of the better players, less frequent uploads. That's what I've noticed. And this season's been quite terrible for feedback, like for the community having a go at Bungie. Like, it's been quite unfair, to be honest, because Soul 3.0's launched decent. I've enjoyed it. I've actually really enjoyed it, and I think this season's been alright. It's been like a 7 out of 10. Just a little bit too much overboard with the Leviathan thing, like too much of that going on, you know, too much having to farm like 50 runs just for a title and stuff like that, and it's a bit spammy, it's a bit too much. What they should have done, alright, is bring back Menagerie with the containment. Just bring it back. If they had to re-theme it, that's fine. Or I wouldn't even care. Just reload all that old data, put it back in the game. Give us Menagerie back. That's what they should have done. That's what I think they should have done, but they went this route. And I don't mind this route. I like that they brought the Leviathan back, right? But it's not fully exportable. Let's just be honest. You can't farm. You can't go everywhere that we used to be able to go. Like, why can't we go outside of the Leviathan and all that stuff and really under the underbelly? Like, everything fully exportable. It's only part. It's like 60% of it. There's some guts of it missing out. And that's a complaint of mine anyways. So now we're at the capture point. All that stuff just before was just me clearing ads from a distance. There's nothing too important about it. The only thing was I was looking for ammo and I didn't really get it. So I'm going to use the super here because it's probably the best thing to do right now, because we're fighting champs, and what you need to understand is when you're fighting champs you get a lot of super off the champs. The tankier the target that you're shooting, the better it is for you to get your intellect back, your super, because intellect is tied to taking and receiving damage. So if you're taking and giving damage, so if you're giving a lot of damage output to a target, especially with a rapid fire weapon like auto rifles, SMGs, just watch your super bar fly up, right? So it really works out with this because obviously you're mainly just using your primary, mainly on champs if you're low on heavy. So you're going to get a lot of super back anyways. We want a super for the capture points on A, B, and C. But we can control when that starts. Obviously, when the last champ or ad is killed, that starts. We will not kill that last champ or ad until we get our super. But it ends up working out that I end up getting it anyways. Because we've got a really tanky unstoppable to deal with. But what I can do is manipulate the enemies against each other and have the overload do damage for us. Now, I am stunning the overload here occasionally. That's not my goal. It just is happening because of the bullets. What I'm actually trying to do is damage this unstoppable. We're fine without the range that those champs don't detect me, but not close enough where the champs aggro me, because even though it's two enemy races, Cabal Overload, they're going to push me if they see me and I'm close enough for them. What I'm also going to do is take this barrier, because this unstoppable is getting really low, and I don't want the Overload to fight the barrier Cabal. Because that's going to get in the way. Because that will be the next port of call for the Overload if the Unstoppable dies. This is why I love this Nightfall, is because there's different outcomes depending on what you do. And I love that. This is what other Nightfalls need to start doing, is incorporating more and more enemy races. Start making the new strikes bigger. 3, 4 enemy races. Hive, Fallen, Cabal. Get them all in one strike. What's what we want to see next for content. Start getting more enemy races in so that the champs fight each other, right? So that we start getting more of a dynamic outcome of, if you do this, this happens. If you do that, then this happens. It just makes things so much more interesting. So that's what I'm just giving you a take on. That's why I like Warden, because there's a unique interactions with champs. So I am taking out this Overload. There's a slight risk to this, from what damage I can see I'm taking, but what I'm going to do is back up. That Overload was killable, but the Unstoppable was aggroed, so we'll take the Unstoppable. Overload's aggroed on us, so what I'm going to do is come to a zone where the Overload doesn't go, and then bait the Overload round to where I want, right? Which is a location I'm going to show you in a minute. It's a really good place to stand, is to take this Overload. Stops the Overload from teleporting too much, and then I can show off sweet business a little bit, because it is melting these Overloads. Don't forget, it's just a primary and it's doing huge damage to Overloads. It's the same thing for barriers. When it's barrier auto, it's actually really, really good on barriers. It melts barrier shields. As I said, I wish it was barrier auto this season, but it isn't. So it is just Overload. But this is just showing you now the damage. I'm within range damage. I'm not getting much fall off there. That's probably its optimal range. That's one thing it struggles with, this weapon, is range. If it had a little bit more range, I think more people would use it. But yeah, that's just showing you the melt on the Overload. That was your next goal. That was your goal. Now it's the barriers. Now this is also another good place to take the barriers from, right? The barriers are far enough away from me that they won't shoot. They're not sniper format, they are just the general ones. So these are far less threatening than the sniper ones that we faced earlier. Right, so this is pretty simple just to take. We'll do a hammer and a nade, so a radiant. But not only that, so here's the good thing about throwing hammers in endgame when you're in GM content, especially on Heart of Inmost light playstyle. You can use your throwing hammer as a tool, as a radiant, but also as a grenade. Because what happens is the throwing hammer explodes and does like a grenade type damage. Because you'll just sit on the floor. Obviously you're not going to pick it up because it's too dangerous for you to go and get it, right? But then that's going to explode and do extra damage for you. So it has a dual purpose, the throwing hammer. And you don't see, people don't use it like that in low stuff, because you can go and pick that hammer up back, no problem. GMs, sometimes you struggle a little bit to do that. So this is a way of using it as a range type thing, because obviously I wouldn't recommend using the Hammer Strike, the one with the shoulder charge on Solar, is poor. It's poor, unless you use like Peregrine Greaves. It's alright, but if you're not using that, then it is really poor compared to the mini hammer. What I'm doing now, so this is what I'm doing. I'm prepping the entire room. Well, not the room, but the capture point area. I want all the mines down. You saw me do that earlier. I just ran past all the mines, A, B, and C. All the mines need cleared out. All the explosive barrels need taken out as well, because all that stuff can kill you, or it can mess up your run. So just clear the room, prep it. Once you've done that, then deal with your champ. Save everything that you've got, because you're going to need it. I wouldn't use a nade, throwing hammer, anything. Just take this barrier slowly, and then because we're gonna be really timed. Remember, I haven't got unstoppable on, and there's three champions that spawn on the capture points on A, B, and C. On A, there's a barrier. On B, there's an unstoppable, and on we're meant to be C, but he spawns in the middle of the map. I've found out where this overload spawns. I'm gonna kill the overload because I don't have the time to kill the unstoppable. What you need to realise, there's 3 champs, but only 2 of them need to be killed for plat. I'll repeat this again. Only 2 of them need to be killed for platinum rank. You won't see me get platinum rank because I went to orbit when the boss was 5% HP, so that I can rerun this checkpoint again down the road. Because obviously that's the whole idea of these runs, is that I can do a loadout and then do another loadout and do another loadout. I keep checkpoint, lest I would lose it. So I need to kill one of them, so I decided that I'm gonna spawn kill the overload, which some people would think, well, that's going to be more difficult, but it isn't, because I've got an overload weapon. So the first thing you want to do is focus the 3 goblins that spawn out of this area here, this section. Then you want to come to this cover here. I'll do a barricade, get my health, and then a nade and a throwing hammer to get radiant, and let's get this barrier down quickly. Right, then we'll swap to our heavy. Make sure we get... I don't think I did get bait and switch. That's unfortunate. But the champ dies. So you really want to melt that barrier down. Now look at the timer onto my left. 35 seconds. I've got 35. I haven't got 35 seconds. I've got like 20 seconds, say. 25 to deal with some adds on right side. Or on capture point C. I'm just going to deal some damage to this Minotaur and all the adds. This does another thing as well. It stops the unstoppable from chasing me. See those goblins right there? Because I left those alive, it stopped the unstoppable from approaching me. So the unstoppable now is somewhere else on the map, probably fighting adds, which is ideally what I want. I want nothing to do with that unstoppable. But here's where the overload spawns in. So we'll do a nade. We'll clear the goblins first, there's 3. Then we'll get the stun. Barricade, because we're getting naded, and that's dangerous. And let's see Sweet Business do its work. So it needs to really do good for me. Classy Restoration's helping us survive. Switch to some heavy. I know I haven't got bait switch proc, but I just needed to get some damage in fast because we're timed. We've lost so much time because of that, but it's what I've got to do to make the run work. What you got to realise is sometimes you've got to work harder to get the loadout done. This loadout isn't efficient as what other loadouts are. It means I am as a player need to work harder. But this, I recommend anybody who's into solo play does this from time to time to challenge yourself more with harder setups. It makes you, the player, do the work as opposed to the loadout, or you make that loadout work more. Right? You have to make some slight alterations to what you do. Notice we only had 4 seconds to capture C, so that was quite close. And I knew it was gonna be. See, if I was on Blade Barrage, I could, or something like that, I could have stunned that overload and then supered and then go to the next point. Or if I was on Thunder Crash on a Titan, stun and then do that. But obviously, I opted to do Solar instead, because if I went Thunder Crash, I'll be using a bad super with Actium War Rig, and the whole idea of the run would fall on its face, because Thunder Crash is terrible without Curious of the Fallen Star. So that's another reason why I went Solar. And it's a cute solar burn. So notice the Scorch Cannon, which I haven't talked about at all. That is my DPS tool to take out the Cabal Ultra. This round, or this zone, there's a lot of adds that spawn. Now, if you want to farm up ammo and you have 0 ammo, I highly recommend that you clear all the ads. You're bound to get at least 1 or 2 bricks. Especially if you're low on heavy, you will get that. But if you've already got ammo on the floor and you've got a bit of ammo, then you don't need to take them. The only thing that you need to do is stand where I am and just keep charging that Scorch Cannon to max damage. Look at how much damage I'm getting, 50k per shot. Because the Scorch Cannon is solar, is affected by acute solar burn. So the Scorch Cannon is very useful to you. Don't use it for ag clear, that is a bad idea. Pick it up on phase 2 to defeat the Cabal Ultra. That saves on heavy, it saves on your time and your patience, and you're good to go. Like, look, I already had a heavy brick, I knew this in advance, so I'm max on heavy and I'm good. So now this is where you need to pay attention. Now I've knocked off my settings. I think I've only got I've got the some of the music off, so you can't hear the talking with the Warden AI. You can see at the top right, Drifter and Warden are talking, the Warden AI. Let that stuff finish before you jump down, because you will bug out the Nightfall. Alright, now this is definitely a thing. If you jump down here slow, you are less likely to bug out the whole Nightfall. Now if you bug it out on GM, it's over. Alright, it means that you'll need to wipe. If you wipe, you go to Orbit. No good for GMs. For Master, you can get away with it. GMs, you can't. It's extinguish. So you need to make double sure you don't bug it out. So just do what I'm doing. Take one step at a time. Look for dialogue off your ghost at the top right. Right? So every time he starts talking, just stop what you're doing and let that dialogue finish, else you'll bug the whole thing out. This is the fix that you've got to do. Right? Now also pull out your ghost. See, when you pull out your ghost, it tells you where the checkpoint marker is. So I know I've done this right, because the checkpoint marker is on the chest. It's telling me this is what I need to do. See, this game suffers from checkpoints where if you go too quickly, game bugs out. I think you remember the season of the Hunt, or whatever it was called. The one where you played those missions, and if you went through the portal too fast, or you melted the boss too quickly, it bugged the entire thing out. It's basically skipping checkpoints, and the game gets confused. So as I say, the checkpoints work differently in this game, right? For this particular one, the checkpoint was go inside the building. Then the next checkpoint is jump down. And then the next checkpoint is go and clear on the chest. So there's like 2-3 mini checkpoints in between while the AI is talking or the dialogue is going on. When you get the champion has appeared like that, then you've done it right. If there's no champions, you've bugged the entire thing out. You have to go to Orbit and run it again. So I suggest that you do be patient and you do it right and just walk slowly, thank me later, and you won't bug it out. Or you're less likely to. This still can bug out. It still can. I mean, it's Destiny and things happen. But you're definitely less likely to. I've tested it where you run. I've tested it where you don't. And when you run, it's like a 50-50 chance you'll bug it out. And I don't like them odds. I don't do odds. I don't do those risks. So, especially I've just put in 38 minutes of a sweet business run. I'm not willing to throw it away and go to Orbit and do it again. I haven't got time for that. So, now we need to prioritize champs, right? So I'm waiting to see where this overload's going to go. This overload for me was being a little troublesome because the overload was fighting really on the right hand side. That doesn't always happen. This depends. There's a bit of randomness to where these champs can go. But what I'm trying to do is let the champs do the damage for me and keep that champ overload, which even though Sweet Business isn't doing the damage, it's at very minimum keeping that champ from being a health regen. So that's really good. I'm happy that it can do that from that range. Your next protocol is doing damage to the Unstoppable. So this is where bait and switch comes in. Right, so we'll get our bait and switch. It's doing really good damage just for the fact that, like, it's not even stopped this champ. It's still doing really good damage. So I'm not going to spam all my heavy, but I'm going to use a bit of Sweet Business as well. Just depends on how you feel. You can nade and stuff if you can get a shot. I got a good nade off, but the hammer didn't. Hammer hit the building. But the important part is not to jump down. If you jump down, the Overload and Unstoppable will come for you if you aggro them. So number one, it depends on your loadout, but if you are running like Overload Barrier as your mods, and you've sacrificed Unstoppable, definitely kill the Overload from up here. Let the champs do the additional damage. Keep that stun on. And then when it's the Unstoppable, do as much damage as you can when that Unstoppable chases the Vex barrier in mid. And just do the damage that you can from up here. Get the champ finishable, and then you can jump down. You're safe to do that. That's the order I do it. And then after that, next priority is the Vex, not the Vex, the Cabal barrier. Because the Cabal barrier is the most dangerous threat in the entire game. More dangerous than bosses and everything. I mentioned this on Inside Terminus, but these barriers, they have that solar minigun. Right, it does insane damage. Now it's solar bound this Nightfall, so this particular one is deadly. If you pick him for like half a second too long, you die. So it's a case of you now need to outstrafe these champs and their shots. You need to understand how that works, because general players won't. They'll just sit there, you know, boots on the ground, shoot them generally with a pulse, and then it's like, oh, I'm breaking the shield, oh, I'm dead. And they don't understand. You need to sort of understand the shooting pattern of this enemy. It's very important with these, because as I say, they kill fast. Champs stop finishable, so we'll bait the champ in. I've done that by showing myself. Then I go to cover, wait, get the finisher kill when the Unstoppable is out of range, and then at this point we're now going to fight this barrier that I was on about. Now the barrier right now for me is in a real bad spot because there's a piece of cover in front of the barrier, so I'm gonna probably reposition myself. There's another good place to stand, but right now this is a good place to stand if the barrier's in a good position. It depends, he isn't, so I'm gonna reposition where I'm looking. Don't show yourself until that shield comes up, because if you show yourself for too long, the barrier will turn around and look at you. You want to avoid that. So it's this case of strafing in and out of cover at the right time. Like, look, I didn't need to there because I was absolutely wrecking at Radiant, but generally after my third burst of pulse, I like do a little strafe and then come back out. So I avoid some of the heavy, but I didn't need to do that so much there because I had Radiant, so I was melting the shield fast enough until before that barrier would melt me down. So we're going to be doing the exploit on this boss because I want to keep the checkpoint anyway, so I'm not in any I'm not willing to kill this boss because I want to do other runs on this particular Nightfall. So, you know, there's loads of ideas I have, and I don't want to kill this boss. You can one cycle this boss solo as well. There's strats on doing that. I am totally capable of doing that, but I'm not going to, as I said. I don't want to run the risk of killing the boss. I also will just want to show you the exploit. The best exploit for this boss. Works out really good. The boss fight as well doesn't take long, 5 minutes, even with the exploit. But notice I'm charging light. I want to keep that at all costs. Well, not at all costs, but I'd rather have that. So I'm just going to slowly take this champ, get the champ finishable. We'll finish in the champ. That way we keep charging light because a finisher kill is not a weapon kill. It's just a finisher kill. So we keep charge of light. So that's why I'm doing it. So we get a 20% damage bonus, and I can show off what I'm using better. As soon as you kill our champ, though, you need to get to this point as soon as possible, and then you need to look for the third girder, whatever you call that thing. You need to do that, and you can stand on an invisible floor type thing. But if it's on the second or first girder along, you will fall to your death. So it's on the third. That's where you're positioned. Then you can just kill the boss from here with whatever you want. I wouldn't recommend using your super, because if you use your super, you can't see the boss. So the hammer super is useless here because it just hits all the cover. Just be careful, you can still die here. Look, he does that solar wave attack, but that solar wave attack won't hit you so much. Sometimes it can a little bit, but for the most part you're safe. So yeah, you can use your heavy, you can use anything. Just be careful of ads that are creeping out up on you like that. You can still get naded and stuff like that, but as I say, for the most part you're safe. I'm just going to speed this up as well at your leisure, because the run's basically done at this point. I've showcased what I wanted to do. Now it's just a case of getting the boss to I'll get the boss to as low as I feel comfortable, and then I'll back out. Because there's a chance that if there's any ads still left alive, which there will be, like Vex and stuff, well, there can be, that they could kill the boss. When the boss is weak, the boss can actually be killed by other ads. And this is a problem. I don't want to run the risk too much, so I'll just get the boss to a point where if I was to continue for another 30 seconds, the boss would definitely die. So I'll get him to that stage where, right, you can see the boss is literally just standing where I want. I would just shoot my gun a couple more seconds and complete the run, so anyone could simulate what I've done. And it's best of both worlds, because I keep my CP, because that's all I'm caring about at this minute in time. It's funny because the checkpoint is more valuable to me right now rather than Gilded and my seal. Because, like, you know, I don't mind Gilded seals, but it's a little boring season after season. It starts to get a little bit... Okay, what else are we getting off this? You know, just Gilded seal, right? Okay, I don't really care. I mean, I've Gilded every season, and I will. But, I'm more caring about execution these days as opposed to loot. I'm sort of desensitized to Nightfall loot at the minute. But look, the boss is literally one shot. Obviously, I could kill him if I continue, but I'm not going to, so I'm just going to go to orbit. That was a sweet business solo GM run. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.